Because plants, it turns out, they don't want to be eaten, most of them. So they try to be toxic to animals that want to eat them, let's say humans. Um, so if you go out in nature and start eating like 100 different species of plants, probably 95 of them will eventually kill you if you eat enough of it. So usually plants are very toxic. Only very few plants, have become food for us humans, but they still do contain oxalate, just, like lower amounts. But some are still off the charts. Things like spinach, for example, that's probably the most common one that can cause oxalate problems. So spinach contains a huge amount of oxalate. I would consider it a non-edible toxic plant, actually. So I'm not quite sure why it is allowed to be in our food supply. But yep. Yeah, so you can absolutely overeat on, say, spinach, and some
Wow.
people like to make like spinach smoothies or
Yeah, yeah.
spinach juice or something.
That would
If
probably actually just increase the bioavailability of the oxalates.
Oh, yes, right. So, and there are many case reports in the literature where, somebody, consumed, a few too many spinach juices, and ends up with acute kidney injury, what we talked about before. And they're in the hospital, and sometimes they might even
Wow.
lose their kidneys that way.
Wow. So Popeye the Sailor Man probably had kidney stones.
Very possible. Right.
So, okay. So if I'm hearing you correctly, so the oxalates are essentially, they're in most plants to some level. Many plants have them at very high levels, and they sort of have them for the reason of defense. They actually don't want, most plants don't want to be eaten most of the time. And if they are eaten by herbivores, herbivores are animals that probably have evolved special adaptations to detox these plants in certain ways. And so in a species like ours, which doesn't have those detox mechanisms, you can run into problems by consuming plants with high levels of things like oxalates. And it
Right.
sounds like you said, basically, there's the things that we consider edible vegetables represent, a tiny slice of the plant world that just doesn't have especially high levels of things like oxalates and presumably a lot of other things. But you're saying in one case, spinach, we do commonly think of this as an edible food plant. But what you're saying is it actually has high enough levels of oxalates that you think that's basically a mistake.
Yeah, I would probably say so.